Hey everybody, welcome to the Heathen DriveBYE. Today I have Jackson Wheat on as a guest, and Missus Snarkey is my co-host.
Howdy, y'all.
And the Godless Iowan will be joining us later for being the second co-host. And we're going to find out how to saddle a T-Rex the right way with Jackson today. So, how do you do that, Jackson?
I was not briefed on that topic.
Really? Didn't AIG get a hold of you?
I mean, they have the saddle on the Triceratops, but I think getting a saddle on a theropod might be a bit tricky.
Okay.
Not that, I mean, getting a saddle on a non-domesticated animal won't be tricky enough, but...
might be right on that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But how herbivorous would a T-Rex be?
I mean, clearly they ate melons before the fall.
Okay.
Their sharp teeth were for piercing watermelons or something.
That's maybe the watermelon husks were a lot harder back then too.
Maybe.
Sawing action.
Yeah, they only ate watermelons.
How many dinosaurs were on the Ark?
At least 2.
At least.
Well, according to Answers in Genesis, there were approximately 50 dinosaur kinds on the Ark. But of course, Answers in Genesis says the number of total kinds on the Ark can fluctuate anywhere from 14,000 to like 700. So
didn't Ken Hovind do an explanation of kinds just recently, like a couple weeks ago, maybe? I think I saw Vice Rhino do a response to it.
Yeah, the problem is most creationists don't understand the difference between a definition and an example. So they say, a kind. Oh well, members of the squirrel kind produce squirrels. Members of the cat kind produce cats, but it doesn't mean anything. But even when they do attempt to provide a definition, it doesn't make any sense. Like I did a video a while back called New Kinds, where I documented different creationist definitions of kind, and they vary anywhere from species to class. This huge range of taxonomic divisions.
Wide open for interpretation too, I'm guessing.
Yes. I mean, even in Answers in Genesis, they say it isn't necessarily the family level. They say there's not a one-to-one correspondence. In other words, we can make it whatever we want.
Yeah, well, you've got it. Otherwise, how can you have an arbitrary definition if you don't do it that way?
Yeah, whenever Aaron Raw was talking to Hovind, he said that his definition sounded like claves in taxonomy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because that's Hovind. Every time Hovind is asked about a clade, you just ask him, the next most closely related organism, and he says, "Oh yeah, sure, that's probably also related to it," or "I don't know," because he doesn't know. One example was with the rodent kind. It's like, oh yes, mice and rats are related, are all related to each other, and capybaras, guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about lagomorphs? What about rabbits and pikas? Are they also related to each other? That's a good question.
Yeah.
That like
ain't it though?
Yeah, it's like okay.
Got other ones here.
Hello, I am late.
Yeah, I just started about 2 minutes ago. I was like, it's 1:15. Let's get going here. So.
I didn't realize you were holding off to start. I'm sorry.
I was going to hold off forever, not for you.
So catch me up on what are you guys talking about?
We're talking
about
about
T-Rex. Oh, Whoops.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
How to ride a T-Rex.
How to ride a T-Rex.
How to put a saddle on a T-Rex. Otherwise, you can lose a finger that way.
I would go with the really old joke, how to ride a T-Rex very carefully.
Not at all. We're kind of going through like how creationists like to distort kinds or make up. Pretty much, it's a free for all on that definition.
Yeah, you look at people like Kent Hovind says. The definition of a kind is about the level of species. He doesn't call it that. He says it's the reproductive boundary of a population, which is approximately the biological definition of species. Look at John Woodmarapp's book, Noah's Ark: A Feasibility Study. He says, it's about the level of genus. Ken Ham says it is simultaneously a family and an order somehow. But one of the fun things is Georgia Purdom actually said, she wrote an article, and I can't seem to find the article anymore. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place, or I'm misremembering the title. But she said it was about the reproductive boundary of a population, which, about species. But I also have an interview that she's in where she says there is a single bird kind and also a single dinosaur kind. So, I mean, there are different kinds of birds on the Ark because they sent out a dove and was it a raven?
Yeah, they send out a dove and a raven.
Right. So yeah, they sent out these two guys, which presumably are in different kinds, but there's also only one bird kind, I guess. And and there are 50 dinosaur kinds, but also one at the same time.
Yeah, it's both ways.
I mean, 50 equals 1, doesn't it?
I'm just going to do something real quick here. This is mainly for Jackson. No, listen to me. Listen to me.
He was talking about that before we went on here, but I was shoveling snow all day yesterday, but I wish I would have seen it. Maybe not.
I told them that science is what you can know.
Science is what you can know.
I think I aged several years during that conversation.
I don't know how you couldn't. Like I said, you invited me onto that, and I was like, I had a bad headache yesterday, and it was good because my brain would have just fritzed like 5 minutes in.
Oh, we spent like about an hour or so afterwards, still talking to him.
Jungle jargon, right?
Yeah, I mean he said at one point.
I know him from a long time ago.
Yeah, he leaves comments on all of my videos, and I've kind of stopped responding to his comments. I don't really. It's not worth it if it's the same thing over and over and over, which you saw. We tried to explain about 10 different ways. Nothing got through.
Well, nobody can blame you for that, Jackson. That's probably the healthy way to respond.
Most fun, like I said, was when he was shown the DNA sequence, and he was like, well, it's a lot of repeated information. There's a lot of A's and T's and G's, and I was like, oh, my head.
Shannon liked that too. She thought that was pretty funny. There were a lot of hilarious moments in that. Like I think you saw she posted yesterday about how you expected an answer? He actually said that.
Wow.
Because he said if you guys will stop, if you guys will shut up and let me speak. So he said, okay, go ahead. He said, oh, you expect an answer?
Oh,
it's
man.
Like, what?
I would have booted him right there.
Well,
like, why? He kept doing that. Hey, no, listen. If you want me to answer, listen. And then he just wouldn't answer.
I suppose he doesn't speak English when he's confronted with actual logic.
That was actually a part of that stream when Peter started talking in, I think, Dutch.
I showed it to Savannah afterwards. I said, "This is what we did earlier," and I just skipped to like 3/4 of the way through, and it was just all of us talking over each other. And I was like, "Wow, that sounds a lot worse than it actually was."
Oh, Clade Starfish says AIG says 196 bird kinds. By the way.
I'm not surprised. I bet they couldn't tell us what one of those is.
Finally, we got a number though, Jackson. This is this is a breakthrough.
I mean, I do have I have the interview of Georgia Purdom where she says bird kind, dinosaur kind. It's Evolutionless Part 3 or Chapter 3, whatever it is. And so yeah, just
Georgia is just a disgrace.
I mean, it's whatever you need it to be whenever you need it to be that. But then it can be something else whenever you need it to change.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about like geckos or whatever. Oh, there's a gecko kind. Well, are geckos related to, like iguanids? Okay, sure. Well, are they also related to skinks? Sure. What about snakes? Okay. Tuataras? Yeah. Crocodiles? Sure. Turtles? Yeah, that sounds good. All right. What about birds? Nope, not birds. Nope. Stop there. It's like, oh, well.
It seems like whatever suits their narrative at the time, they'll use.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. And I think it's really funny when you can get them to expand it to include things they normally wouldn't think about it including. Like if you're talking about caniforms, for instance. You got I think it's order caniforms is like dogs and bears and seals and weasels and raccoons and stuff. And it's like, okay, so you say, okay, all dogs are one kind. They say, yeah. And then you explain to them, okay, well, look, here are bears that have all these characteristics that are shared with dogs, and also these transitional species, between the common ancestor of bears and dogs. And you can get them to say, oh, okay, fine. Maybe bears are also related to dogs. And then, you also point out, oh, hey, we have these guys called miacids, which are the common ancestors of dogs and cats. And so you have these weird guys from the Eocene, like Dormalis Iowan, that have dog and cat-like features. So it's like, which kind is this guy in?
Cat dog.
Cat dog kind.
Do you think they all ate watermelon too?
Probably.
Alone in the world is a little cat dog.
Well, like you said, it seems like they'll accept evolution up until the point that it contradicts what they're trying to prove.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They won't call it evolution though. It's a variation or adaptation or something.
Or they'll say micro. It's micro evolution.
Right. Which they also misunderstand what that word means, and they have to misunderstand it to make their argument. I mean, if you explain to them what macroevolution actually means, they'll realize that it's technically not an obstacle to their arguments. It's just they'll only accept like a small degree of macroevolution, except that the arc itself necessitates that there was some high level of macroevolutionary change about 4,000 years ago that resulted in like all terrestrial life we have now coming from like however thousand many kinds.
How many times has evolution been disproven?
All day, every day. There is no evolution. It's a lie from Satan.
That's a trick question.
Well, here's the thing that because, and this was discussed during your stream yesterday, if there was an ark, a flood, then we would be able to trace it back to a pretty major bottleneck there.
And anywhere on Earth.
Yeah, and there's no discernible bottleneck in that. So I've kind of lost my point because I thought back to that stream and it made my brain go dead.
Well, it was actually it's Yeah, that's a good point. We tried explaining to Jungle Jargon, if there were a flood, there would only be 4 alleles for each gene.
Yes.
Right? You know, he has this idea in his mind that there's this thing, there's like an idea called like an Eden genome, where it's like this, you know, it was this great genome, and then everything else afterwards just resulted from a loss of certain genes or whatever, you know. Except no, we don't see that at all. In fact, we see the exact opposite. And that was one of the really funny arguments he made, was that because cheetahs went through a population bottleneck around 12,000 years ago, possibly due to disease or something, and so we can see this because a lot of them have the markers of inbreeding, like I think kinked tails is one of the things they have, and other little genetic disorders because of how inbred they are. And so his argument for that, though, was that there was a population bottleneck because they were Egyptian pets.
Yeah,
like,
that
the Egyptians
made no
domesticated
sense.
them. Yeah, which is so funny because something becoming a pet does not equal bottleneck. It's like we have someone pointed out, it might have been Rayrard, that like, you know, we have modern cats. They don't show signs of a bottleneck just because they're pets, right? Just completely silly argument. I mean, we see the same thing with elephant seals. They went through a population bottleneck, but no one was out there domesticating elephant seals, right?
Now,
Not that I know of.
Exactly.
Were cheetahs kept as pets?
I do believe so. I'm not positive.
I think maybe like the pharaoh or the rulers might have had cheetahs. I think
so.
To remember something like that, but I don't think it was a widespread process. But
Yeah.
like back then, if you were a ruler, you would have all kinds of exotic pets. It was a status kind of thing. But
Right.
it wasn't like everybody had a pet cheetah that they came home to and wrestled around with on their
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
class wealthy royalty kind of thing for that. Yeah.
I want a
Yeah.
cheetah.
I
Can I
think
have a cheetah?
Okay, this is what I say to Mrs. Snarkey every time she asks for some wild animal. Mrs. Snarkey, if you catch one in the wild, you can have it.
Oh, that's not fair.
Oh man, I've seen. Have you guys ever seen videos of people with like slow lorises that they like tickle them and the loris puts its arms up in the air?
Yes.
It turns out they're actually terrified.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's adorable because you you're like tickling their belly and they put their arms up. Yeah, it actually, what they're basically doing is saying like, take me, just end it.
Oh,
Not just that, but don't slow lorises in the wild have some kind of defense gland or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're saying, get the hell away from me or I'm going to make you nasty or...
You're going to hurt if you do this any longer.
Yeah, it's horrible. I saw a video about it because I thought it was just so cute. And then I was like, oh man, it's actually torture for these animals.
Okay. I remember my question for you, Jackson. And this would have been something that I might have brought up if I had been a part of the stream. But if we could go back to Noah's Ark and God is able to keep the genome of all of these animals perfect, even though there would be massive inbreeding, wouldn't it have been even easier if God had just made all of those animals reproduce parthenogenically after the flood for like several generations? That would cut the amount of animals you needed on the ark in half.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I mean, he could have. Well, I mean, as Jerry Coyne said, God could have taken all the animals on the ark and just shrunk them down to the size of a chickpea. You know.
Yeah.
He didn't really have to keep the. I mean, it's God, for God's sakes. You know, he doesn't have to be constrained to the laws of physics. He can do whatever the heck he wants.
Exactly. The easiest thing would have just been to flash everybody else out of existence and just left Noah and his family, and then they wouldn't have had to build an ark or gather all the animals.
Right. But I mean, there's so many funny things about the ark, and not just the science of it, but the history surrounding it. Just so many different angles to go at it and show that, wow, this entire story is bogus.
Yeah.
And find tools that are older than the story of Noah.
I mean, we have the story has been traced, as far as I'm aware, back to Sumerians. The Epic of Zusudra was like the first one in that area.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like the biblical flood. So you had Zusudra, and that flood was actually connected to a local flood that had occurred in Sumer. And so that story was passed to the Babylonians, which was Noah, the ones who wrote Noah, and the Akkadians, who wrote the Legend of Utnapishtim, which was in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Good book, recommend for all. And so, these stories just kind of grew as they went, and today we have people trying to scientifically and historically defend them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's like, okay, it's the world we live in.
Yeah, it's basically, I shot a basket, made a basket with the basketball court the other day, and then all of a sudden it's like half court, and then it's full court, and by the time it gets real, so that's the way I look at it.
I caught a fish that was this big.
I caught a fish that was this far from shore.
Yeah, it's all ridiculous. One of my favorite things to point out is that the something like 30 years after the global flood allegedly occurred, the Egyptians were building the pyramids, or some pyramids. So it's like so Noah and his family raced down to Egypt, got busy.
They were doing it like rabbits.
I guess, started making a whole bunch of people to build the 6 dynasties pyramids.
I don't want to be too crass on this podcast, but I would imagine it more like they would get their wife pregnant, and then it was like a rocket when it was born, and it just shot that human across the earth to wherever it was supposed to be.
Like a cannon.
Yes, exactly. And that's where it ended up.
A baby cannon. Yes.
And as they were flying through the air, they completely grew into a full-size human. So once they reached there, they were ready to start making tools and pyramids and everything like that.
I guess.
They yell cannonball on their way.
Answers in Genesis, you can hire me and I will make up the crap for you. It'll be just as funny.
I think it's more interesting making up stories.
I mean, the satire on Answers in Genesis is beautiful. It is satire, right?
Yes,
not the Onion.
It's the Onion.
Okay.
I wish they were. I mean, they have they ever seen the Flintstones? Do they ever reflect on it and think, wow, that's exactly like what we teach?
Yeah, I know.
The Flintstones was ahead of its time.
No. Wilma and Betty had way more independence than they would accept.
That's true.
That's true.
This friend of mine, speaking of that fake news or whatever, this friend of mine, he's always trying to come up with it. He's telling me these conspiracy theories or whatever, and tells me that the Smithsonian a while back destroyed all the bones of the giant humans or whatever that were in there.
Of course.
2 clicks on the Google search, and that's just fake news or whatever it called. Whatever, I can't even remember, World Daily or something.
World News Daily Report. Yes, they were the ones who made the story about the chariots being found in the Red Sea.
Yeah, that's another.
And that story went viral, and a few Christians I know that was like what, like 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. They brought that to me, and they were like, Jackson, what do you think of this? And so I looked it up, and I was like, this story is from a satire site. Yeah, yeah, I remember those guys.
I mean, I don't mind satire, but people just do one little search and you'll find out that it is satire.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's like the stuff that they show on Gaia TV, like the alien found, the mummified alien.
I think you mean History Channel.
Same thing.
Anybody here remember when the History Channel had actual history programs?
Yes.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
I do remember.
And then they realized America is kind of dumb and they don't like this stuff.
Sort of started with Ancient Aliens, didn't it? An Ancient Aliens show or whatever.
It started, I don't think it was Ancient Aliens. I think it started with, they had Mysteries of the Bible.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yeah, and they showed that real early in the morning, and it became one of their more popular programs. And then they kind of branched out into, I think Pawn Stars was on the, isn't that on the History Channel?
Hey, I like Pawn Stars.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Actually,
but it's not history.
Well, no, but I actually went to the shop in Las Vegas.
Did
Was
you?
it as big of a letdown to you as many people say it is?
No, I thought it was pretty cool. I actually got they had some fossils there, so I bought a small trilobite.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I still have the receipt from a gold and silver pawn shop.
That's really neat.
Yeah, it was pretty late though, and so it's like, you know, I mean, they probably get off at like noon. They're like, yeah, it's lunchtime, going home. See you guys tomorrow. They have enough money to do that, I bet.
I bet they do too.
But anyways, Noah's Ark, whatever we were talking about.
I came in on riding T-Rexes.
Yes.
Which, of course, a Triceratops
Not riding,
is much
how to
better.
saddle them up.
I don't know. I am not sure if, given the opportunity, I would go to the Creation Museum. I mean, maybe if someone else paid for my ticket, I would probably go. But I don't think I myself would.
If they had like a free admission day.
Yes.
Then maybe I would. I don't want any of my money or even anyone else's money going to that.
Yeah. Don't blame me.
Yeah, that's true.
I always love the videos where they're walking through it and talking about all the people that are there, and you see no one in the video. It's like,
look at all these people who came to my inauguration. I mean, museum.
We widened this. We widened this hallway just so we could fit more people, and you see maybe 2 people.
Yeah.
Pan around, you see a couple starving mice in the corner.
Yeah, I keep seeing, you know, pictures of like the parking lot and, you know, stuff like that, and it's really funny that it is not doing well, and I'm not especially surprised, especially since all the underhanded stuff that Ham has done. But I mean, it's a giant, you know, it's a giant theme park. He's built these two locations now, and they're creation museums. I mean, there are a lot of creationists in the United States. Not really enough people are going to be interested to keep that thing afloat, economically speaking.
No, even I don't know. It's like you did it once, you know. Why would you even want to do it again? You know, even if you were, even if I was a believer, I don't want to go there again. I can't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you know, you go once, and it's like, okay, this is really cool stuff, but why would you? You know, is it something you'd make an annual trip? I mean, because part of the thing is, part of the like the reports from the town, which is it Williamsburg? I think. They're like, nobody's. This is providing like basically no economic benefits to the town. People who go to the art park aren't eating lunch in town. They're just leaving. You know.
Yeah, they're going, and I think they have a food shop at the Ark Park, and so they're eating there. They're going for 3 hours walking through this fake museum, and they're not wanting to go to downtown Williamsburg and check out the shops or anything like that.
Right.
I can say that I'm fairly proud that when I was a minister, we had a kid that his family took him to, and I'm not sure if it was the Creation Museum. I'm pretty sure it was. But he came back telling all the other kids about how dinosaurs were on the ark and things like that. And I was like, no. Dinosaurs were not on the ark. No. I mean, I still believed in the ark, which was stupid enough, but I was like, no, they didn't have meat eating dinosaurs.
We got to draw the line here.
Yeah.
This is too far.
Burning Man. I'd like to go to. I wanted to go a couple of years ago, but I'd go to.
I mean, no, I totally understand that. Part of the reason is, dinosaurs were used to be a lot less of an issue, but too many people know about dinosaurs, especially in today's world where we have access to loads and loads of technical literature on dinosaurs that people didn't have access to in the 80s and 90s. And so you kind of can't forget these guys who were some of the largest animals on Earth, right? It's like, well, what are you going to do with these guys?
Yeah.
And so I actually did a whole video about that, titled Dinosaurs in the Ark, which actually jumped up pretty quickly in its views. I was rather shocked. I guess people like dinosaurs.
People do like dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs are amazing. I could talk about dinosaurs all day long.
Go and check out Jackson's video about dinosaurs, y'all.
And whale sex.
And whale sex, yes.
And whale sex.
My channel will actually move more towards prehistoric creatures in the near future. We're working on the first one of a series of prehistoric creature ones, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I want to move towards like dinosaurs and stuff. Even though I've done a few videos where I looked at dinosaurs, like other than the dinosaurs in the Ark, I did one on paleogeography, which is really interesting. It's like the spatial distribution of organisms in the distant past, and there's some really neat stuff in there.
I'm just so happy.
Happy
that you're going to take your channel in the prehistoric direction.
Yes.
I see.
That is cool.
I love anything that has to do with dinosaurs or paleobotany, anything like that. Just it all amazes me.
Do you follow Trey the Explainer?
Who's that?
Trey the Explainer?
Yes.
I do we?
I do.
I'll put it in the
let's see.
Trey.
And it's really funny because our friend Trey really loves dinosaurs. So I thought it was really cool when I ran across this channel because I thought, is this Trey? And no, it wasn't our Trey.
Oh, okay. I found it.
Oh, I forgot I was going to do that right at the beginning of the... I just want to remind everybody that we're going to have another live stream tomorrow at 4 o'clock Central Time. And Prophet of Zod is going to talk about the Faithless Forum thing tomorrow on my channel.
Ooh.
So everybody remembers that. And go ahead. You keep on talking, guys. I just want to make sure I've got that out there before I forgot.
Do you think I could be in that stream?
Why, certainly.
It's at 4 o'clock, right?
4 o'clock, yep.
Okay.
I will be at work, but I might take a break so I can jump in the chat for a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Jackson, what I really want to know, because I have a question, what really got you so excited and interested in science and biology more specifically?
Well, interestingly, I have never not been interested in biology in one form or another. I was saying, like a Apatosaurus at 2 years old. I've always been interested. I've always had an interest in paleontology and biology, and it is finally manifested in the form of my YouTube channel. But I'm also going to school for it to get a degree in biology. so I can become an evolutionary biologist. Here's hoping. But yeah, I guess it's just endlessly fascinating for me. Every part of it is amazing, and it's unusual.
It is.
There's always something new to learn.
Yes.
Jackson Wheat is going to be the Richard Dawkins of the future.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I really think so. I think you have what it takes. You are so interesting to listen to.
Yeah, you're articulate and easy to listen to.
I just have to become British.
No, you can be the American. We need an American Richard Dawkins. I mean,
we had Stephen Jay Gould.
Yeah, but that's been a while back.
Louisiana got a Cajun accent going.
I mean, we need a new one.
We need a Jackson Wheat.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I will consider that.
I'll cheer you on all the way.
Yeah, these my YouTube channel basically started. Well, it originally started because I was responding to some videos, but it quickly became more about just teaching.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing I want to do in the near future is I'll probably do a series on the basics of biology.
That'd be great.
Because I've become jaded due to my interactions with creationists.
Yeah.
And I now know that people even lack understanding of the fundamentals of biology. Yay!
Oh, yes,
Yay.
You know, it's really needed to have things like that on YouTube, and I think that you and Scientist Mel are doing a great service to science by having your videos that and I hate saying the word dumbed down, but I don't think they're dumbed down, but they are so easily understood by anyone that wants to watch them.
Well, that's good.
That's
what I aim for.
Yeah, they're not something that you have to also be a biologist to really understand. They are made in such a way that anybody could jump into a video and get a better understanding of whatever topic you're discussing.
You're an extremely pedant person.
And I like them.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. I do try to make them understandable because the information comes primarily from technical literature, and almost no one wants to read technical literature. So you have to figure out a way to kind of condense some of it and summarize the material and then present it in a way that is palatable to your audience.
Right.
And that's what I try to do. That's why I have people like RJ who help me with my scripts and stuff so that I can get the information correct and made presentable.
I'll have to get RJ on here too. I wanted to do a live stream with him a long time ago. I just never happened. So I have to get a hold of him again and get him on here.
Yeah. It's plus every time people ask me to do videos, I always learn stuff. Always learn stuff I didn't know. Like the whale sex video. Learned a lot of interesting things I would have never otherwise known.
I want to know how, like, what's the name? Bronto, like apatosaurus, how they had sex.
Well, that is an interesting question. They might have touched cloacas and shared the necessary material. I don't know. There's some interesting. There's actually a video on it. I think it's like, how did Stegosaurus have sex?
And did I say that in a very creepy way?
I don't think so.
Like I'm getting excited. Like, oh, I want to know how they did it.
I mean, my greatest fear. My greatest fear is that someone will see my internet history after I do these videos. Like I look at I look at it after whale sex. It's like, oh well.
Dino
No one
porn,
else is
yeah.
Actually, the dinosaur sex video was actually in my recommendeds on YouTube. So
It's a good video, really good video.
yeah, it is. It was very interesting. I think someone may or may not have asked me to do that topic before. I'm not sure. But yeah, my next video will also be kind of similar to that. I think it will be interesting. Ha ha ha. That's all you get to know.
Awesome. I will look forward to that. One of the other things that is so fun about your channel, and I know that on another stream Shannon Q has mentioned this, but consistently the funniest thumbnails are on your channel. I mean, they are the best. The thumbnail for the dinosaurs on the ark where you were made a T-Rex pose. I had to. I laughed so long and so hard that it was probably shouldn't have laughed that long, but it was so perfect.
I know exactly what you're talking. No one has ever. I don't think anyone's told me to my face yet that they are funny.
Oh, they are fun. They're like they are great. And I mean, some of them are funny, some of them aren't funny. I'm not trying to say, oh, that Jackson Wheat just looks funny, but they're great. The thumbnails are great.
Well, that is good. We actually Savannah is in charge of those, so we have Savannah to thank for our thumbnails. Thank you, Savannah.
She does a great job.
Yeah, I think so too. I like my thumbnails. We're always like, oh, what should we do for this one? You know, yeah, they're fun to make. It was actually Godless Engineer who gave me the idea to make personalized thumbnails rather than just a picture from my slideshow. So I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And so we started doing that.
Peter's coming in, by the way. I just invited him in.
Not Peter, of all people.
Peter's coming in. He heard you talking about whale sex. It's just you gotta come in.
Acceptable. That's why people came, didn't they? They were like, "Oh, Jackson is going to talk about whale sex."
We're not here for Jackson. We're here to hear about whale sex.
Exactly. Yeah. There's it was really one of the funny things about it was Tony Reed did a video. The last video of his latest season, he mentioned me at the end. And he took one of my quotes just by itself, and I never knew how funny it sounded. I was like, there's a lot of study on whale penises, but what about the whale vagina?
I know.
I never thought how silly that would sound out of context.
Oh, it sounded pretty hilarious when you said it in the video as well. I can remember
at least there it was couched among other sexual things, but in that video it was just like, we're just gonna drop this quote by itself. I was like, oh man, that sounds funny.
Hey, it's the Flying Dutchman. How you doing, Peter?
Hi everyone.
Hey Peter.
Hello,
Hi,
Peter.
Jackson. So recovering from a train wreck. I hope this is going to be a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the word I used to describe our talk earlier.
Peter, listen. No, listen to me.
Jackson, our talk earlier didn't even come close to what happened today. So,
Wait.
but I'm still going to have Jungle Jargon on at some point because
You
he
poor
contacted
dear.
me. Yeah.
Why?
So-
Why do you want to do that, Peter? You already went through this. Why are you doing it again?
I explained that to you. I want
That's right, you did.
I want a cup of geology, and I want a cup of geology sent to my house so I can have a cup of my own geology.
Did he say that during the live stream? Was it just off air?
That was off air. Shannon
okay.
told me
No,
about
no.
it.
Oh, okay.
No. He said that on air.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
Did he?
good.
I don't remember that.
For anyone who doesn't know, Jungle Jargon said there's 100 cubic square miles of geology. Of geology, like the study of rocks.
Is that true, Stephen?
And so we were asking him, or Shannon was like, "Do you call the ocean oceanography?"
Yeah.
Do you wade into the oceanography?
And
A cup of geology.
and look up at cosmology.
Exactly.
We're surrounded by cosmology, by the way, which is kind of scary. No one tell Neil deGrasse Tyson that, because he'll get beyond himself.
And see, I think that I could have a discussion with someone like, let's say, Inspiring Philosophy or Classical Theist. And I think I could have a discussion. But with someone like Jungle Jargon, my brain would snap so fast.
Oh, it's just,
I just couldn't do it.
I mean, Inspiring Philosophy is kind of interesting. I respect that he made a video saying, "Hey, you can be a Christian and accept evolution too." I totally respect him for making that video.
Yeah.
We need more videos like that out there on the interwebs. Definitely. I would much rather live in a world, full of Christians who accept evolution rather than creationists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we need more videos like that.
And what I'm saying about that is I could have a discussion with someone who's sensible and has some sensible views, but someone who has smoked their education, I'm sure I couldn't do that.
You're talking about the guy that I just had on. I need to say, because Beach Price is in the chat here, and Beach provided us with a link to human fossils. Beach, he read the scientific paper you linked to, and his response was, "I'm not impressed." I don't know.
Very scientific.
I don't know where to go from there.
RJ got me, or no, there was a creationist yesterday who sent RJ Kent Hovind videos.
BH.
Yes, and so we were all in there asking VH questions who knew absolutely nothing about any of the topics he was bringing up.
Yeah, wasn't she a she?
Oh, yeah, maybe she, whatever.
Yeah. I muted that convo because I sent her a couple of tweets and she just didn't respond. Either she has me muted or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. She never directly responded to any of my questions.
Yes, but she responded to your tweets and RJ's tweets. I think that's at least last part I saw.
Yeah. Well, I asked her at one point if she understood what the burden of proof was. Never got an answer.
Of course not.
That's how much alcohol is in your bourbon.
I think we had her boyfriend on just now for 4 hours, more than 4 hours.
Oh my god!
So I need some kind of mental repair of my brain here. So that's why I asked if I could join, at least see a stream with a couple of rational people. Maybe that can help me get back on track.
Because that's not me.
You have been through, Peter. You poor thing, Peter. You've been through so much.
You were there.
I was there. I've seen it.
As Ken Ham would say, were you there?
Yeah, well, and I have to do another shout out for two of the terrific women who joined me. Faye joined me and Diane joined me. Both are in the chat right now.
Yes.
Hi, Faye.
And they battled him along with me for another 2.5 hours, I guess.
Oh,
I'd rather listen to you talking to Dr. Guyman.
Oh yeah.
No, that.
I had to stop that one and come back to it and watch a little bit and then stop.
I listened to most of that, and I just, it was so clear that he was a Poe, especially when you guys.
Wait. There's one good thing. There's one good thing about Dr. Guyman.
He has a big mustache.
Nope. He made Godless Engineer actually want to join one of my live streams.
That's right.
He did, yeah.
Yes.
That elevated our channel a little bit. And for what it's worth, John was perfect.
He was.
Even though Dr. Guyman was a dick to his girlfriend, John kept it cool. Extremely cool.
He was, I mean, just the stuff, even aside from the absolutely ridiculous things that Guy Man said, he said at one point, he was like, oh, I didn't lie. You can't prove that I lied. Well, he did lie. He lied about saying he had provided references in his video on me. He provided absolutely no references because I checked during the stream because I was like, I don't remember him providing any references, and he didn't. So he willfully knew he didn't provide any references and said he did.
So Jackson, I just want to be clear. You are now on the side of he's a Poe.
I am always, I always, treat people as though they're not Poes unless otherwise specified. And so I brought him on because I thought, hey, this is a young guy. I can probably talk to him and convince him some of this stuff is wrong. I knew he was a Poe as soon as he put up a video about our talk. He actually put up 2.
Okay.
Was it 2? I think it was. Yes.
Yeah, it was 2.
Is incest moral was one of them, which was just ludicrous because he made a whole video about a throwaway joke that I made.
Yeah.
And then the other one was about bananas. He said he kept asking me. He kind of pulled a pine elephant on me.
I think in total he made 4 videos just to respond to you and James.
Actually, I got a little bit of a reasoning on what he's doing. Why I think he's a Poe is because he's sort of parroting both sides of the thing. So he's trying to get both sides to get after him, or whatever. That's why I think he's a Poe. And I've watched his. I came across him about 6 months ago on his videos. He's already doing it back then or whatever. But
he has like almost 500 videos.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's been doing it a long time.
See, here was the things for me. Generally, Poes really try to promote their stuff, and he doesn't seem to try to promote his stuff hardly at all.
You're right.
And the second thing is, some of his videos are so convincing that he believes this stuff that it was hard to tell. But when I watched Peter's stream, when I watched Peter's stream with him, it was so blatantly obvious through that whole stream that he was just exuding Poe behavior. That it basically removed any question from my mind.
Yeah, and if you want to promote something, you actually have to know it. I was screaming at the screen when he talked to Jackson and RJ, and when they asked him a question about creationism, you could hear him Google.
Yeah,
and Jackson, RJ made fun of him at some point when he was constantly Googling answers for the questions they posed to him. If you're really a creationist and you want to defend that, then at least you have to have some basic knowledge, and he didn't even have that.
Hold on, Peter.
And the reason he gave us is I only defend it because it's attacked.
He can't type that fast if when I hear him typing, he's like, "La, la, 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 la." You can't type that fast if he's that dumb.
I mean, it made me angry that having a conversation with him, giving him the time of day to try to dispel some of these ideas, just to find out he's a Poe, that kind of makes me angry.
Well,
me too. That's why I wanted to expose him. I talked to this about this with Cap Brony even before you and James went live with him. And I said, this guy's a Poe. This guy doesn't even.
That was Cap and RJ who went live with him. I talked to him by myself. It was Cap.
Cap
who all
Cap
did
and RJ.
Yeah.
Shannon Q went on that stream with them too.
Yeah, so they all did it together, and I saw their talk, and I thought I'll try to talk to him because he also did a little video about me on the one I did with Paul, and so I thought I might be able to try to listen to it or reason with him, but he's not interested in reasoning, and so I'm done with him.
Yeah.
Done with his stuff.
I just did 4.5 hours with an adult like that.
Either he's a Poe or his parents grow magic mushrooms in the basement. And he got into it.
Well, something that really made it obvious for me during Peter's stream, and I'm not saying he doesn't have this because he might. He mentioned having Asperger's, and I have Asperger's. Okay. He mentioned that creationism was one of his interests, and he had no answers whatsoever on creationism. He had to Google it all. That is not what someone with Asperger's would do. No. When you have Asperger's and you have an interest, you try to learn as much as possible on that interest.
Because you want to know everything about it.
So it's OCD with it then?
Yeah, and pretty much.
So he really showed, I was like, okay, maybe he does have Asperger's, but he's still a Poe in that he doesn't know what he's saying is his interest. He doesn't know anything about this. And
Karis made the same point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Karis also has Asperger's, and she has certain fields where she excels in knowledge. So,
it was one of the interesting things in that conversation.
It doesn't rule it out because he could have another thing that he's maybe even more into than just doing this. This could
cranial blockage of the rectum.
Maybe his interest. maybe his special interest is poeing.
Yeah,
I don't know because when I talk to him, at least there is something wrong. There's something with him in some point. So I don't know. He could legitimately have Asperger's, and I think if that's the case, we shouldn't make fun of it.
No, and I'm not making fun of him having Asperger's.
No, I know. But as I said, and we also shouldn't make that something that we can criticize him on either way, being good or bad at something. But there's one thing that I do want to criticize him on, because if he wants to be a Poe, at least he can do a little bit better on his humor, because that's just awful.
Yeah, and let me be clear, I'm criticizing him on that because he said it was one of his interests.
Yeah, I agree.
And having Asperger's, if you say something is one of your interests, you're going to know more about it than that.
You're going to know something.
Yes, you would at least know something. I can tell you just about every plot to every Star Trek episode that's ever been out there, because that's one of my interests, and it's not even a top one of my interests. But yeah, it was very obvious when I watched Peter's stream, and I had watched Jackson's stream as well, and I was still on the fence, but Peter's stream really pointed it out.
Yeah, the is incest moral video that got me. That made me realize this guy's a Poe. I got duped.
Yeah, well,
not doing it again.
I have to say, and Jackson knows this because Jackson and I talked briefly. Jackson just was thrown off of the stream, or he would have been part of it, I think. We
kicked me out for no reason. Totally closed.
We did discuss this up front, and I told him that the only reason I wanted to talk to him because I wanted to expose him, because I was convinced already that he was a Poe. So saying that you might have not found it in Jackson's video, I think Jackson did his ultimate best to maybe even teach the guy a little something, whereas I didn't. That wasn't my outset. I wanted to expose him, and that's why I questioned him the way that I did.
I think you exposed them quite well.
Definitely.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, the some of the stuff you guys talked about, the two girls, one cup thing.
Yeah, two girls, and
I was laughing pretty hard. He said it aroused.
Yeah.
I was like, stop.
Yeah. And I have to give credit to Karis, because I think Karis was amazing in that one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of you did. You all of you were pretty great. Just each,
I'm extremely biased when it comes to Karis, because there's no one on social media that has taught me as much as Karis has, and that has to do with what we do on our channel. But I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from a lot of skeptics, but what I've learned about creationists and their mindset and their way of thinking, that's all Karis.
I love Clade Starfish's comment here. Just ignore those guys, Diamond, Jungle Jargon, and the others like that we know are pose.
I have a great idea. Let's not ignore them. Let's get Mr. ID, Gaiman, and Jungle Jargon in one stream and have them debate. Wait, and have them debate each other.
Peter.
And a ballistic missile launched in that spot that they're in.
and I'll just take 9 shits while they're doing it.
Woo! Yeah.
And Jackson, you'd have no reason to say no.
I will not be within 12 miles of my computer when that happens.
Because we both were responsible for the Aaron Ra Mr. ID.
Okay, I acknowledge that, but that was a one-time mistake.
I forgot about Mr. ID. Wow.
He actually tried. I don't know if I've told anybody, but he tried contacting me again.
Yeah.
He actually. Yeah, on one of I think I commented on one of Aaron's videos saying like, "Hey, great video" or something, and he's like, "Hello. Can you get me in touch with Aaron again?" I just thought, no.
His voice is what kills me.
Oh, Clade Starfish just said get White Engine to moderate it. Oh! And it wouldn't matter if any of us were near our computers at that time, because it would break the internet.
That would be broken, yes.
Or Dean Esme. You could get Dean Esme.
Yes, Dean Esme.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I'm Dean Esme.
I really enjoyed the talk you did with Crocodile. That was pretty good.
You legitimately scared me right there. Because I wasn't looking at the screen. I thought he came up. But there's another thing I can't mention enough. And Jackson, I think you will agree. We had a talk with Aaron Ra a day before the Mr. ID debate. I have so much appreciation for Aaron that he went on with it, and the way that he went on with it, and the reasons that he gave why. Because he said, I gave my word. I'm not going to back out, even if this guy's completely stupid. We're just going to do this. And if it's going to be a train wreck, it's going to be a train wreck, and we'll see where it gets us. But we're going to do this. And to me, that was amazing, because I don't see a lot of people that are as big as Aaron Ra do the very same thing.
Yeah, it was very impressive that he did it. Gives me a lot of respect. I mean, I already had a lot of respect for him, but it gives me a new level of respect for him, you know.
Me too.
Because I don't know if I would have stayed after I found out he did like an 8-hour stream, I think it was, on the Great Debate Community, where they talked to him. Can you imagine 8 hours of Mr. ID?
Oh,
good Lord!
No.
I've died a little bit inside right now, knowing that happened.
I mean, I imagine they're like, okay, we're all off from work today, so let's just listen to Mr. ID.
Jackson, how many shits were there in that?
8 hours worth.
That's the only thing I still can. I have 9 shits, and that proves there's intelligent design. If when I have 9 shits, the egg won't break.
He has like 6 books that are published or something that are available on Amazon. It makes you wonder who publishes books 6 times.
Anyone can publish on Amazon.
I guess. Yeah. I guess if he used like Create Space, he could pay however much it is.
But he had to, because he said, "I'm a scientist because I have 6
He's
books."
a freelance scientist, Peter. Freelance scientist.
Oh yeah, freelance scientist. But he is a scientist because he has 6 books.
Exactly.
Six
well,
books
you know,
and 9.
Science is what you know.
Yeah, 6 books and 9 shits, and the egg won't break.
Don't break it.
I'm a freelance millionaire. That means I'm not really a millionaire. I just pretend to be one.
Lance is in prison. We got to free him.
Oh man, it was so absurd. And maybe the funniest part was that one of the funniest things in that whole conversation was that he was basically describing natural selection, but he called it intelligent selection, and Aaron was just trying to reiterate that point. and then he went on Hoven's show. Mr. ID went to Kent Hovind.
And Hovind ran away.
Yeah, even Kent Hovind couldn't take it.
How bad do you have to be to make Kent Hovind? First of all, the stare of Kent Hovind at the screen, looking at the screen, and with an expression, "What the fuck am I watching right here?" And then completely dropping off.
You know, it has to be. Yeah, exactly. It has to be bad when you make Kent Hovind run away. Not even Aaron could make Kent Hovind run away. But no. Mr. ID made Kent Hovind run away. But
amazing.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
the stare of Kent Hovind, to me, that was one of the best things I've ever seen. Having look at the screen and start off the whole stream with a prayer.
Yeah.
When he says, "I'm Mr. ID," and Mr. ID would not impose a god, because intelligent design supposedly doesn't pose a god.
I guess. I mean, they are very squishy. They'll never say like what god it is. It's just an intelligence out there.
But that's the idea, because creationism was banned in schools. They had to go to intelligent design, which was the Kitzmiller versus Dover trial about. That it was creationism in a lab coat.
Right. Yeah. Have you guys ever? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I was just agreeing with Peter.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard of the C design propensists or whatever it is? Proponentsists? You guys ever heard of that?
C design proponentsists.
C design proponentsists?
Yeah. Basically, what happened was they took the textbook for creationism and like copy replaced every creationism with intelligent design, with the words intelligent design, but in one of the spots,
an intelligent design proponent.
Right. Yeah. So in one of the spots, it created like an error where you have the letter C in front of the word design, and then it says proponents, but has ISTS from creationists on the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a spelling error in the original transcript, and that made what they called the transitional species, which I thought was hilarious. Because the books were changed the moment that creationism was outlawed, and I think that was in I don't know, they have to correct me, in 86 or in 96, somewhere around there. And so they had from Pandas and People, they had the first draft, they had the second draft, And then at some point, they had a law that prohibited them from having creationist books. So they had to change the wording into an intelligent design book. That's where intelligent design really took off, because they couldn't invoke God anymore. So instead of invoking God, they decided to invoke an intelligent designer.
Oh, PZ Myers, he's involved with all that stuff in the Dover thing or whatever.
Oh, it was 87.
87.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was a year off. Okay.
It's too irreducibly complex for me.
Yeah. So, but that's what that was. So they basically kept the entire book, which was a creationist book, and by just replacing a couple of words, made it an intelligent design book.
That's how I tried to sneak it in to teach it in school.
Ooh, yeah. Guess who the dissenter was during the decision to make creationism unconstitutional?
Was the dissenter?
Yeah. It was Scalia.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Not surprising at all. Not surprising at all.
No.
See, when you first said that question, I thought you were saying who objected. My mind went to that, and it was, I believe, the Catholic Church objected to creationism being taught in school, which was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just what a world.
They accept most of science, but I think they have to, because they're losing people all over the place over the things that are going on with the kids in the churches. They have to do something to.
Well, I mean, they got to the point where they couldn't kill the scientists anymore, so they might as well just go along with it.
Yeah, that could also be an issue.
Can't put them under house arrest anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still, I still think it's a little bit embarrassing that we got the Big Bang actually from a Catholic priest.
The name of it. Yeah.
So
I don't know, Peter. I mean, isn't it a common trope in creationism that Christianity spawned all the sciences?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Now we've got Christianity killing off their own God, because the Catholics nailed another nail in the coffin for creationism with the Big Bang Theory, because that completely proves Genesis wrong, and there's no way to put it.
Well, I mean, naturalists had known since like 1830s that the Genesis account couldn't be correct, because you had guys like Charles Lyell and others who were realizing, hey, this rock stuff, this cup of geology I have here, doesn't really make any sense if the Earth is 6,000 years old.
I see what you did there.
Yes, that was brilliant.
What amazes me is they're really the only agenda that creationism really has is to disprove the evolution, so that they can, and it really doesn't matter even if evolution was wrong, it doesn't matter.
You're right. You're right. It's not even about, ultimately, for creationists, it's not about the science. Science will always be a secondary issue. It's always first about salvation. Got to get those converts. The science comes later.
See, and that's where I beg to differ, because I'm still fairly convinced that it's not about that. It's all about the money. And the last talk we did, where Paulogia came in and Shannon Q came in, where I asked Paul, listen, this guy from CMI is now the head of Answers in Genesis in Canada. Paul, pretty much the first reason that he gave was that there's more money.
All right. Well, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, I'm just assuming they believe everything they say, even though I know that's not true for some of them.
That's right.
Well, I think Ken Ham is making a pretty penny off of his Answers in Genesis stuff, and so does most of his family who work there.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even sure if it matters if he believes his stuff anymore.
And when you look at Ken Hovind, he managed to get a piece of land that's worth I think over $1 million. And at least a lot over $1 million right now. If you go to Ray Comfort, who pulls in over $1 million a year.
He's also selling a lot of books and materials and stuff and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, but about what?
I mean, he makes lots of little books on creationism. I actually bought one.
Yeah, so
it's terrible. It makes no sense.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It was titled like 100. What is it? 100 scientific facts about the Bible or something like that. But a whole chapter of it was just quotes from people who believe the Bible. Which does that count as a reason? Maybe. But also one of the funny things was he had like the same quote on like 2 separate pages. And so I think it was like Robert E. Lee. And it was like Robert E. Lee says this one thing. So then they flip the page and it's on the next page. The same quote. It's like, well, the editor did not do a very good job.
Do you think he had an editor?
I would think so. I mean, he's got a big ministry, so I would think he has an editor.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody just brought up Ray Comfort. Every time I hear his name, I feel like going down to the pier in LA and grabbing him and dragging him into the ocean, give him a Pacific Ocean-sized swirly and looking him right in the eye after I pull him out and go, hey, sorry, my bad, man. I thought you were Josh Feurenstein.
Oh, my God. Josh Feurenstein, whatever it is. He was a person. He was a person a few years ago.
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Well,
he's not a person anymore.
You know the biggest joke about him, right? That's one that the Americans don't get. You have to be European to see that, because Feuerstein is a creationist who has the last name, who is what's actually the name of Fred Flintstone in Germany.
No.
In Germany, Fred Flintstone is called Fred Feuerstein. That's how you pronounce. That's how you pronounce it in German. And that's his last name.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Literally one of the Flintstones.
Oh my God. He could capitalize on that.
He could.
I mean,
I love that, Peter. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
You can Google it. Take his last name, put Fred in front of it, and add intro, and you'll get the Flintstones intro in German with the big letters.
You know, I mean, Josh was everywhere for a little while, and then he just dropped off.
Like, well, I think when you start making videos where you're holding a gun 5 inches away from your kid's face,
yeah, that'll do it.
Probably headed out.
I mean, yeah, he was only in for a little while, like a Armored Skeptic, Amazing Atheist. They made some content about him, and then poof, he was gone.
Yeah. And he's rude because he was so mad about the Starbucks cups.
Oh yeah,
when they went red, and then I designed new Starbucks cups just for him. I designed the Unholy Trinity Starbucks cups. I sent them to Aaron Ross, Seth Andrews, and Matt Dillahunty. So you had basically the Starbucks logo, and instead of the woman in the logo, you had Dillahunty, Aaron Ra, and Seth Andrews. Seth Andrews used it a lot on Facebook. Aaron Ra tweeted it out. I think Matt did it a couple of times. But Feuerstein never responded to that. I don't know if he didn't like my design or... But there was a Trinity in it. I thought I did well.
Speaking of older creationists, we could just do a whole stream on like, remember this creationist? We could do that. Or like, remember these older YouTubers who don't do stuff anymore? You know? That could be a whole stream.
I've considered doing a stream on Jack Van Impe. I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh yeah.
He is an apocalyptic preacher that's constantly predicting the end of the world.
Predicting in quotes.
Yes. And then after it doesn't happen, he's like, "Oh, I had this figure just a little bit off, so it's definitely going to happen on this date."
The great disappointment.
Yes.
Man, I don't understand how these people, like, they will sell, because the preachers like tell them, sell all of your stuff, you know? And so these people are destitute after these events don't happen. And then it's like, well, what the heck are we supposed to do now?
So I have a funny story about Jack Van Impe. My grandfather follows Jack Van Impe, well, I could say religiously because he does follow him religiously. And we were having a Christmas meal at my grandfather's house, and he wanted everybody to watch this video. And Jack Van Impe is now predicting that August is definitely going to be the end of the world.
You know that?
It's definitely going to happen in August. Well, then the next thing that my grandfather says is mark your calendars because the family reunion is in September. Now, he definitely believes the end of the world is in August.
Conflict of interest.
The reunion is in September.
I mean, you still have to go to the family reunion if you're in heaven or not, you know.
You know how many people pray at the end of the world?
The question is, which of you make it into my version of heaven?
I think I've been banned from just about any version by now.
I'm still trying to get a Million for Christ on our channel because no one, not even by a long shot, puts out so many rapture dates as he does. I mean, there's pretty much one every week.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
and somehow they don't work, and somehow people are still sending him money. I mean, that's something that I'll never get my head around.
I mean, isn't there a biblical verse? Oops, sorry.
I was going to say the good news is we're staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive.
You can tell by the way that I'm gonna walk, I'm a lazy man.
No time to talk.
Isn't there a biblical verse that says, like, no man will know the end of days?
Yeah, no man, no angel, not even a man, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, not even Jesus knew the day that the world was supposedly going to end.
No, because he's God too, right? Or
yeah,
well, so how do they like rationalize that?
See, Jesus is fleshy God, and he see, like, God. If you really think about it, God takes furry form to become Jesus.
So what you're saying? So what you're saying?
Humans are an animal. Humans are an animal, and so for God to enter into a human, then God's basically the first furry, but it was with a human.
Godless Iowan, are you saying that Jesus is God with a sell-by date?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, Iowan, I do have a question. Do you like often do you often engage with, like, I know you were Pentecostal, but like you were creationist or no?
I was a young Earth creationist.
Oh, do you engage like often with young Earth creationists?
Now or in the past?
Yeah, like now.
I do some on Twitter, generally where I'll say, well, I used to be a young Earth creationist, and yeah, it doesn't hold up. But I haven't like engaged on my channel or anything like that with a young Earth creationist yet.
You haven't really done videos on that though, have you?
You know, Guy Man did one of his videos.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. You've seen it. Yeah, I've heard you talk about it before. It's so funny because he's like, this guy doesn't know anything. It's like, well, wait a minute.
I don't know anything about Pentecostals. Pentecostals don't speak in tongues or anything like that. And I was like,
snakes.
wait a second. This guy doesn't know anything.
Writing in tongues. You got it wrong.
But my thing about young earth trees, the way I started to leave my faith was I started to look at things more logically, and I was trying to read through the Bible and understand each verse because I thought that would restore my faith. And as I read through Genesis, by the time I got to Noah, I was like, this is just, there's no way any of this happened. And
are you telling me God didn't kill a guy for not impregnating his dead brother's wife?
I'm saying that did not happen. Here's the funny thing about the reason the guy didn't want to impregnate his brother's wife is because he didn't want to raise his brother's children. That's not how that works.
Well,
that's literally the reason he is given in the Bible. He didn't want to raise up his brother's children.
I guess the thinking was, it's like once you become, beholden to your spouse, any children you have are the children of, the husband, I guess, is the thinking in that regard.
Yeah.
I mean, they had some wacky ideas about genetics. The passage about, breeding the sheep in front of the rods and the offspring became striped. It's like, well, not how that works.
No, it's definitely not how that works. But Beej Price in the chat said that, let me look up here. Where is it? That's what I'm doing with a Pentecostal friend. Got her interested in science and now attempting the logical thinking with her. One thing that you can do is ask her what she believes about certain stories in the Bible, and then take her to the passage in the Bible where it talks about that story. Because a lot of what you're taught is not actually in the Bible. Like with the story of Noah, I was often taught that Noah preached for something like 100 years and tried to save people. That's not in there at all. It just says God said, go build a boat and I'm going to save guys and I'm going to kill everybody else. That's it. There's no story of him preaching or trying to reach out to the community at all.
Or Satan being in the Garden of Eden.
What were you going to say, Jackson?
Peter said, or Satan in the Garden of Eden. But I was also going to say, that's not none of the other flood, like Middle Eastern flood legends either. It's like they never try to, to save the other people. It's like, I got to get my family out of here, save myself.
Yeah. It was God picked one family and that's it.
Mm-hmm. It kind of defeats the purpose if they're trying to save everybody else's family.
So I have a question, Godless Iowan. You're in here, and I already asked you that if Karos isn't available, that I'd like you to join because I may have an upcoming guest who's a Pentecostal.
Yeah.
So what I'm extremely curious about, I also talked to Jerry DeWitt. He may be on our show. He may be on our show too in future. He already agreed to come on, but it's a time issue for now. But the talking in tongues, the speaking in tongues. Have you ever been at a point where you thought that was actually the Holy Spirit doing it?
Oh yeah. I used to 100% believe that it was the Holy Spirit taking over my vocal cords and speaking for me. speaking in tongues was one of those things that, like I was talking about with Beach Price there, actually researching the passages where it speaks about the baptism of the Holy Spirit got me to where I was like, it's not like it's written about in the Bible. In the Bible, when they talk about speaking in tongues, they're talking about actually speaking foreign languages that other people can understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what the speaking in tongues is in the Pentecostal church. And so as my faith started to wane, I was thinking, I'm not as faithful now, so there's no way I can speak in tongues. And yet I can still, Shandala Mosetai, Hadamosheta, Hadamokai, Hadamoshetat, Hadamakakai, Hadamashai, Hadamakai. It still comes out just as easy.
But here's the thing, and I'm seriously curious about this. Even if you read it in a different way, so if you really think it's basically gibberish, but the Holy Spirit seems to know what he's doing, and it is a language to the Holy Spirit, shouldn't you be able to understand each other when you do this?
And you're told that okay, when you speak in tongues, at least in the church that I was in, when you speak in tongues, God sends an interpretation to someone else. And so once you've spoken in tongues, they stand up and they give the interpretation that God has sent them. And so you think someone actually has understood it.
That's handy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the Quakers. Just start writing over there.
Yeah. And I'm not that 100% accurate on that particular verse, but doesn't that also mention that you can raise people from the dead?
There is a verse in the New Testament that talks about the things that Jesus did, and that those people with the Spirit could do those things and greater things.
But isn't that in the same part as where it speaks of speaking in tongues and handling poisonous? Yes, venomous animals and drinking poison.
It's the verses, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head. I believe in Mark that were added at a later date that usually come with a footnote that says this isn't in the original manuscripts. But yeah, it all comes from that. And interesting story on that is that I have been told my entire life that I died and was brought back to life.
You died and you was brought back to life?
Yes. In a church service, I had a seizure as a young child. I was like 1.5. I stopped breathing and they rushed me to the hospital. Well, supposedly the church was praying fervently, and on my way to the hospital, I started breathing again. And that was the power of the Holy Spirit resurrecting me. And it was part of what my grandfather used to say that I was going to be a modern day Elijah when he prophesied over me.
My first question would be, while you were rushed over to the hospital in the ambulance, didn't they perform CPR?
They did. My father did CPR. He was actually a cop at the time. And he was doing it as they were taking me to the hospital. But yeah, I was told
so my next question would be, what saved you, the CPR or the power of God?
Oh,
I already know the answer, of course.
Yeah,
it was Zeus.
It would definitely be the medical care I received. But like I said, I was young. I had always been told this, and it was used by my grandfather to say I was called by God to be an amazing in-days preacher. And
he was right.
Yeah.
He was right.
World's ending tomorrow, isn't it?
I mean, that's right.
I don't have to take my finals, right? That's what
we've just met, but I think you're doing a pretty awesome job for as far as I've seen what you do.
I mean,
Well,
hasn't
thank you.
hasn't it been the end times since forever?
Oh yeah,
Has it never not been the end time?
I don't think it has ever not been.
Not one of them
the
got it
end
right.
times.
The beginning of the end, and the end, and the end, and the end.
Oh, well, and don't get me wrong, but if a preacher gets from the end times to orgasm buttons, then I think we have a legitimate qualification for being an amazing preacher.
Did I miss something?
I think so.
I had a chat with scientist Mel.
Oh,
And during the chat, the question was innocuous. It was not dirty in any way whatsoever. The question was, if you were God, the question was, if you were God, what improvements would you make to human physiology?
okay, fair.
And
fair.
someone in the chat said orgasm button.
Yeah.
And we got off on that topic, and we both decided that an orgasm button would be a horrific thing to have, because you hit your funny bone all the time. Imagine if you had a button on your body somewhere that would just instantly make you orgasm. That would be very awkward, very painful after a while, and that most young teenage boys would have worn theirs out before the end of their freshman year.
Not only theirs, don't you think that if we had a button like that, I wouldn't be in the center of town hitting random buttons all over the place, because I take time out of my day.
Yeah, Peter, she really knows how to push your buttons, doesn't she?
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like that's also something like if we did have one of those, you accidentally hit it, people, we would develop a culture where that happens in public and people are like, oh, it's okay, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
The fairly normal thing.
Like an involuntary erection for a teenage boy.
Right.
That always happened right before you were called up to the front of the class.
All right, who wants to give his report?
I don't. Can I give the report with this book here?
I actually had a really funny conversation with a friend of mine about that one time. Good time. I did in computer science class instead of work.
Is this the time for awkward confessions? Because I've had that on a horrific scale, I think.
You were singing the national anthem on stage.
No, here's the thing. I was the first one who had a car in the school that I was in.
Oh, wow.
And I was sitting behind two girls in every single class, the same two girls. And I liked both of them. And so we were flirting all the time. At some point, one of the girls came up to my car as I got to the school. And I thought, well, here's what I'm going to scare her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up just a few inches and scare her that I'm going to run her over. What I didn't see was a guy on a moped coming towards the school. So he had to avoid me and ended up hitting her full on.
Oh no.
And so she had a little wound at the inside of the leg, and I decided, because I had a car, I would the teachers brought her first to the hospital and then to her home, and I volunteered to bring her bike and her school bag to her house and explain to her father what I just did and what I was responsible for. He was one of the coolest guys I've ever met. He took it very lightly, and well, things happen, and as long as everyone's okay, I think you got as scared as she was at that point. And but it ended up in actually having a little bit more contact with that particular family. I had a trailer because I had a hobby. I was a DJ, so I had to haul all my stuff, and they were moving, so they ended up borrowing my trailer for moving. And at some point, she borrowed some of my records, and I was supposed to pick those up. And that was a very hot summer day. And
It sounds like the intro to a bad porno.
yes, it is.
I was thinking the same.
It is. So when I went there, no one opened the door, and she already said, if we don't open the door, we're in the backyard. So then just walk around and come in through the backyard. So that's what I did. But what I didn't know is that they were how do you call those? I don't know the English word. They
were nudists?
Yes.
Oh, I knew it. I freaking knew it.
So what I didn't know was that they used to be just naked in the backyard. And now this girl was beautiful, but she had a mother who was just over 30 at the time, and I was 18.
Ooh, uh-oh.
And she had a stunning mother. And I walked into the backyard with the girl that sat next to me in class, completely naked, and her beautiful mother. So I was offered a Coke, and then at some point I had to leave. And the sad part was I couldn't stand up. I would say no to orgasm buttons in general because I was embarrassed enough as it is back then. But I'm pretty sure Mom knew why I didn't get up.
I mean, that's understandable, but like when you're a teenager, I don't think women quite understand that a man can be thinking, I have to give a report. God, I hope I don't get an erection. And it's like, oh, well, there it is.
Yeah. At that age, you cannot control that.
Yeah, you're looking at like a plant, and somehow the plant is like, hell, that plant's kind of hot.
It's I mean, it's nothing. I think it's just one of those things. It's kind of stochastic. It just happens sometimes.
Yeah, just happens, and you're like, and it generally
at the worst times.
At the worst of times.
Yeah.
I can't relate to any of this stuff.
I'm on movie night, and they do puns on movie night. Let's just say it's hard when it happens. So,
even worse when you're in church. And let us all stand for the benediction. No, I'm gonna sit.
I would stand up, then look down, and then scream, now look what the Holy Spirit did.
Look what the Lord has done. It rose the dead.
Yeah. Tell to the preacher, you said I would grow in my face, but I didn't have this in mind.
I'm done.
So, Jackson, was this the discussion that you had in mind?
Since becoming a member of YouTube, I'm never sure what going into a discussion.
Jackson, be honest. Since we are in a DM group, you already know that when certain people enter a talk, it'll degrade the conversation.
I mean, it will likely, yes, that likely happens.
I was recently told that someone said it's really odd that you were a former Pentecostal minister, but you were also like the raunchiest person that I have ever met. And I don't mean to.
You were repressed, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard about that kind of stuff, and that's actually some kind of interesting psychological stuff or phenomenon, Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting psychology of religion.
Yes, there is.
I actually came across a neat paper just the other day that was talking about how there can be like physiological effects that correlate with religious fundamentalism.
Hey, do you have a link?
Yeah, I'm sure I can.
Yeah, cite your sources, Jackson. Cite your sources.
No. I love
I'm
reading.
literally the one who made all of this up. I have no sources.
No.
I am the source. No, I
just I find that stuff fascinating too.
Yeah, there's if you have like lesions in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, I think that can cause you to have aspects of fundamentalism.
Interesting.
And so it's neat, very neat stuff.
There was one.
Go ahead.
Question that Mediocrity Maze brought up a while ago already, and it's not off topic here a little bit, but
is anything truly off topic here?
No,
not really. This is my channel, so do what you want. But he was talking about sleep paralysis and if that had an effect on why people are religious or why we're.
It might have had an effect on one person that Peter and I know. What do you think, Peter? Peter?
Oh, he's got his mic muted.
Peter has been raptured.
Understandable. He would be the one of us to be raptured, of course.
Did you see that bright light that flashed right there? That was Peter.
I think the bright light was taking a picture of the back of my car.
I was going to say spontaneous human combustion.
I'm back. I had Lavender Lady spit her coffee, I think. So, and that's when I realized that I didn't have coffee anymore. So I was getting coffee. But yes, we definitely spoke to someone who described sleep paralysis and then explained it as God visiting her and talking to her. So. And it's not that uncommon. A lot of people have the same thing.
I think his question was mainly directed towards is that where religion probably evolved from or started from? It's kind of.
I think it has more of a naturally selective benefit in certain cases. I heard one explanation or one potential explanation that was if you perceive intelligence in nature, you're more likely to survive. Like imagine you're a primate on the savannah and you hear a bush rustling. Well, it could just be the wind or it could be a lion preparing to eat you, right? If you perceive that there is intelligence behind that bush, i.e. a lion, you're more likely to survive than the primate that thinks, oh, it's probably just the wind.
And Curious George ended up being pretty much dead.
Exactly. A little too curious.
Part of my hypothesis on that, Jackson, is that yes, there's that part where we would perceive natural forces as having anthropomorphic qualities, but I also think that when we developed consciousness and we started to hear our own thoughts, when we started talking to ourselves in our thoughts, I think that had a lot to do with religious beliefs.
Ooh, there's actually a book on that.
Yeah.
The God Part of the Brain by Matthew Alper.
Is there? I've never
yeah, I'll put it over here.
That onto my book list.
The God Part of the Brain. Here you go on the side. By Matthew Alper. Yeah, very interesting book. He basically posits that the kind of the counterweight to the existential dread caused by consciousness was religiosity.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the main thrust of his book. Very interesting book. I don't know if that hypothesis holds well among psychologists, but I thought it was very interesting. I don't know.
I love that kind of thing.
I am picking that up right now.
So, are you getting it on Amazon now, babe?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's 9:07 where I am, so I actually have to go.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to get up here too.
My friend just got here too. We're going to be doing a little bit of gammon here. So
what a quinky dink!
Oh, what a quinky dink! What a quinky dink!
Hopefully, nothing pops up involuntarily.
This is a great stream tonight, guys. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. Thanks for having me on.
I have my brain back.
You've been an awesome guest, Jackson. Thank you.
Thank
again.
you, Jackson.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
Next time we'll talk about whale sex more.
There's a lot of maneuvering involved.
That's also in human sex as well.
We did plug our your channel in our previous stream, Jackson, and I can't plug that channel enough because I think it's vastly becoming one of the major channels that I link to when I talk to creationists. At least give them the links to go and watch.
Well, thank you.
And get some education.
I do need that AdSense.
Great
And-
stuff.
Yeah, so I think I want to do another shout out for the people who haven't subscribed yet to go and first of all follow him on Twitter, and second of all go subscribe to his channel and see what he brings up, because I know for a fact there's something extremely cool coming.
And if
We always have interesting stuff in the
With the topic we've had,
No, this is cooler than the topic that we've had.
well, something cool coming might not be the right words to use for the topics we've talked about tonight.
that might be truer than you think.
Oh,
I won't see. Yeah, there is a tiny link, and I won't reveal anything. But we had a topic about awkward experiences, and Jackson's going to do something that has "daddy" in the title. So, yeah, there's definitely a link. Everything's connected in this universe, you know.
Oh yeah. I'd also like to remind everybody too that tomorrow at 4:00 Central Time, I will be having Prophet of Zod here, and he'll be talking about his Faithless Forum excursion that he went on. And yeah, subscribe to Jackson's channel. Subscribe to all these good co-hosts here, and Peter. He's the Dutch version of Columbo, and Missus Snarkey.
I am.
And the
I
Godless
am.
Iowan.
and
You know, Tim, you gave me just one of the biggest compliments I've ever had, because
Hey, you are, man. You are.
First of all, Columbo is still the best appreciated police series ever, and that's
awesome.
those are not my figures. That's an actual figure. When you go worldwide, I guess. So if you want to equate me with Columbo, that's
Hey, you remind me of him when you question people. It's funny. Get down to the truth. The investigator. And you got Godless Iowan.
Now I have to find a way to close the stream and then open it back up and say, wait, I just forgot one second. I don't know how to do that.
well, thank you everybody for watching, and thank you for having me on, Johnny.
Yeah. Oh, you bet. Oh, it's awesome having you guys on here.
Yes, thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
And the drummer's looking at me, so I got to get out of here, guys.
We got to go too.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I loved it tonight.
Good night.
Bye.
Goodbye.